Good evening, viewers. On behalf of OmDayal College of Architecture, I, Architect Shomit Pishash, and also a professor of this college, welcome you all to the last and final episode of the webinar series, Architect of the Times. For the last 1 month, we had been presenting before you various topics such as vernacular architecture, new age forms, elements of urban design, architectural graphics, and so on. Today, I invite you all to join on another very vibrant and exciting subject, architectural design. Architectural design is one of the most revered subjects of all times and speaks for the creative genius of an architect from time immemorial. To an architect or a student of architecture, it is this discipline that focuses on the organization of spaces, complying with the needs and demands of the environment and its users. All other subjects or disciplines that are taught to or learned by a student of architecture ultimately contributes and enables him or her to produce a successful architectural design enriched by his or her power of creativity. In OmDayal College of Architecture, the students have to undergo a disciplined and structured curriculum or regime all through this 5 years to learn the various nuances of architectural design stage by stage. They start with the simple problems of buildings in the initial semesters and gradually promote themselves to more complex and difficult projects in the later semesters. In the final year, they become matured enough to work as trainee architect in any good architectural company of the country. Besides this, they have to submit a thesis project by designing a project of their own and have to present it before a panel of distinguished jury to get it judged. In today's program, I'll take you through this entire process, showcasing the works of our students. It will be followed by a short cultural program, also performed by their students. With that, we'll end today's program, and also with that, the curtains will be drawn to this wonderful and fantastic series, Architect of the Times. A big thank you to all the viewers, the students, and the professors of OmDayal College of Architecture, and I'm sure that all of you enjoyed it all through. I end this program and excuse myself with a famous quote from the great German poet who once said, "Architecture is nothing but frozen music. Come, let us enjoy it to the full." Thank you.
Design Studio is meant to provide students with expertise and knowledge necessary in order to produce innovative, creative, and competent design solutions. The main objective of Design Studio in OmDayal School of Architecture is to develop students' imagination in design and allow them to produce architectural designs that have dialogue and balance between poetic and pragmatic thinking. Design Studio provides architectural students with the skill to work under both intuitive and practical contexts. In Design Studio, students express their architectural ideas and creativities through myriad communication techniques and methods such as in the forms of drawings, physical models, computer models, photography, video clips, and others. In third semester, emphasis is on the understanding of the spatial and functional aspects of a building in its simplest forms, like small residences, neighborhood shopping centers, parks, etc., not exceeding 2 stories in height. Through site visits and studio exercises, students are encouraged to understand the interrelationship between human behavior and spatial configurations. Students are encouraged to explore various pre-designed tools like area volume diagrams, proximity matrices, and bubble diagrams to achieve at a conceptual spatial structural system models and express the idea through different media and representational tools and techniques. In fourth semester, when students are introduced to the basics of building services as well as the structural aspects of different building components and use of building materials, they are encouraged to work towards synthetic design resolution, which integrates an understanding of pragmatic considerations, contextual and environmental connections, along with technological systems for medium-sized public building and public spaces. One of our 4th semester batches have designed a hangout zone for an IT park in Salt Lake Sector 5, Kolkata. They studied all the requirements and priorities of the public realm, well as the site considerations. In 5th semester, the basic objectives of Design Studio are to understand the potential of urban land and optimization of spaces, and to understand forms and corresponding functions for different types of buildings, and finally, to integrate the findings on land, building, and environmental characteristics to derive at an architectural form. The design development focuses on grouping of activity zones, provision of subsequent spaces, establishing linkages, and a consideration for services. This example shows how these objectives were considered by our students while designing a high school in Kolkata. During 6th semester, the focus is shifted towards integration of architecture, structural forms and systems, building services along with site services for handling specifically high-rise residential, institutional, commercial or mercantile buildings. Here, students deal with the complexities and criticality of multi-leveled, multifunctional building systems located in an urban environment. Here, 6th-semester students designed a shopping complex in Rajahat, Kolkata. The consideration was to design a space which can form a node for commercial, cultural, and social activities.
The students of 4th year in Architecture Design Studio explored the possibility of innovation through designing and thereby bringing cohesiveness with various determinants holistically. The main objective was to acquaint students to understand the complex issues related to certain design projects such as housing complexes as well as hospitals, thereby inculcating the techniques of designing for sustainability in compliance with building regulations, codes, and standards, along with emphasizing on the climatic conditions, social aspects, functional relationships, spatial organization, variable circulation pattern, along with consideration of structural design and services like electrical, mechanical, and plumbing.
In interior design, the students were assigned to deal with a single interior layout of a bank and thereby understanding the parameters related to qualitative aspects of space, as well as to study the spatial organization and alteration of interior spaces. Emphasis was given upon the study of devices used for manipulation of the interior space of texture, pattern, color, light, paintings, and their psychological effects in interiors, along with surface treatment of walls, floors, ceilings, etc. Assimilation of various aspects of space interiors such as services, acoustics, illumination, ceiling details helped to develop the skills of the students to design functional interior spaces to meet the expected ambience.
The role of landscape in architecture plays a paradigmatic relationship with one another. In this perspective, the landscaping elements as well as site analysis technique have also a significant role. The main objective was to enable the students to understand the basic techniques and application in design, highlighting on the landscaping styles in the form of gardens, as well as impact of landscaping elements on the environment. Also focusing on the various typologies of lighting in landscape architecture, thereby emphasizing on their proficiencies.
In urban design, the students were exposed to the concepts of public realm, the understanding of cities as a three-dimensional entity, and perception of spaces at multiple scales. generic understanding of urban forms and spaces at various spatial scales, thereby highlighting the examples of certain cities such as Bhubaneswar and Varanasi, accentuating on the parameters from an urban design viewpoint, were conducted by the students followed by interactive sessions. Micro-level studies of urban pedestrianized spaces had also been acquitted by the students, followed by overall building fabric studies along with sectional relationships. The main intention was to impart a comprehensive knowledge of urban design, a means of understanding architecture in the macro scale.
Professional architecture degree program, a design thesis is generally considered to be an independent design project developed by an upper-level student in the last year of study with direction from a faculty advisor. The design project undertaken is an invented one, chosen by a student because it allows for the exploration of a certain set of issues in which the student has a personal interest. A written conceptual statement and short report also precede or parallel the development of the independent design project. The completed design thesis project is defended by the student before a jury review with a select number of invited design professionals and academics in attendance. The design thesis differs from a thesis in other disciplines because ideas are primarily communicated through drawings and models, not a scholarly paper or research report. The objective of the thesis program for the student is to ensure that he or she has acquired sufficient knowledge and skills to enter the world of profession, as an apprentice first and later as an independent practicing architect. While doing the thesis, the student is expected to thoroughly examine, study, analyze, design, and present the project of his or her choice as a practically feasible solution in the context of the prevailing socio-economic scenario.
For the last 5 years, we have seen a wide array of topics, but they can be broadly categorized into few subgroups for better description. For example, urban design, housing, transportation, cultural, recreational, administrative, industrial, community facility, and even building of special categories. We are fortunate enough to have the mix from our very initial batch. The topics covered are either theme-based, research-based, life projects, or even hypothetical projects subject to elaboration of feasibility. The topic could be research-oriented on an aspect of architectural design, but the end product should be a related architectural design solution. Although, the students are free to choose any topic of their choice, but we at OmDayal School of Architecture try to limit the size and scope to the extent that the students are able to produce all necessary drawings and details within the time frame and can have access to the information on the topic.
Here, among few options, we have a riverfront development project focusing on the theme to bridge urbanity with its industrial heritage on the bank of River Hooghly, on a site of area around 30 acres of Kolkata Port Trust near Khidirpur Dock. Another project deals with the development of ecotourism in a fisherman's village at Kagdeep, 24 Pargana South, again on the bank of River Hooghly, but more towards the mouth of the river. The third one is development of a composite funerary space at Thane. We have a Center for Cosmological Study at Yokod, Tamil Nadu. This is a nice play with form and geometry. A student developed a theological research center at Gurugram. Again, we have a project on the bank of river Hooghly, which is the redevelopment of Mallik Ghat flower market. Another market development project is situated in Delhi, but with different approach. conceptual project proposes a center for tranquility in Siliguri. We have Shialda Transit Hub development as a transport project.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I am D.S. Chakraborty and I will be your host for today. Sadly, we are at the very last day of the Architect of the Times 2021 and we have tried our level best to make this an enjoyable experience for you all. So, without further ado, let's get into the performances. Presenting a dance performance by Srijita Nondi and Duhita Chaudhuri on a medley sung by Ekota Sarkar and Sriyoshi Nath from first year.
তোমার প্রেমে এমনি জ্বালা কারো কাছে যায় না বলায় আমার মন করে আনচান শিমুলে তোলা যেমন বাতাসে ওড়ে গো তুমি তেমনি ওরাও আমার প্রাণ কোন বাতাসে রইলা রে তুমি কোন বাতাসে রইলা রে আমি মারের সাগর পাড়ি দেব গো এই ভীষণ ঝড়ের গায়ে আমার ভয় ভাঙাই নাই আমি মারের সাগর পাড়ি দেব গো তোমায় হৃদ মাঝারি রাখিব ছেড়ে দেব না তোমায় হৃদয়ে রাখিব ছেড়ে দেব না ওরে ছেড়ে দিলে সোনার গোর আর তো পাবো না খেপা ছেড়ে দিলে সোনার গোর আর তো পাবো না ছেড়ে দেব না তোমায় হৃদ মাঝারি রাখিব ছেড়ে দেব না মা ভৈবানের ভরসা নিয়ে ছেঁড়া পালে বুক ফুলিয়ে গো মা ভৈবানের ভরসা নিয়ে ছেঁড়া পালে বুক ফুলিয়ে গো তোমার ওই বাড়িতে যাবে তোরি ওই বাড়িতে যাবে তোরি ছায়া বটের ছায়ে আমি মারের সাগর পাড়ি দেব এই ভীষণ ঝড়ের গায়ে আমার ভয় ভাঙাই নাই আমি মারের সাগর পাড়ি দেব মানুষ ছাড়া খ্যাত পারে তুই মূল হারাবি মানুষ ছাড়া খ্যাত পারে তুই মূল হারাবি মানুষ বুঝলে সোনার মানুষ হবি ও মানুষ বুঝলে সোনার মানুষ হবি মানুষ বুঝলে সোনার মানুষ হবি দিদলে মৃদলে সোনার মানুষ জলে দিদলে মৃদলে সোনার মানুষ জলে মানুষ গুরুর নিষ্ঠা হলে জানতে পারবি মানুষ গুরুর নিষ্ঠা হলে জানতে পারবি মানুষ বুঝলে সোনার মানুষ হবি ও মানুষ বুঝলে সোনার মানুষ হবি মানুষ বুঝলে সোনার মানুষ
সাগর পাড়ি দেব গো
তোমায় হৃদ মাঝারে
রাখিব
ছেড়ে দেব না
মারির সাগর পাড়ি দেব গো
Thank you, that was an amazing performance. Moving on, we have a recitation on Bachpan by Ariba Mehroz from first year.
बचपन शायद वो बचपन ही था जहाँ कहानियाँ सच्ची सी लगती थी और सच कहानियों सा लगता था, जहाँ झूले पे मौका दे दे जो वही इंसान अपना सा लगता था। हर दिन नया सा होता था, हर शाम मस्तानी सी होती थी, ना जिक्र थकान का होता था ना फिक्र कल की होती थी। तब थी धूप ना चुभती थी ना कड़कती ठंड का होश होता था, जो मन में वही जबान पे, रूठना मनाना तो रोज हुआ करता था। जिंदगी के झूले पे फिसलते हुए अब हाथ छोड़ने से डर लगता है, अपनों को खुश रखना अब जिम्मेदारी सी लगती है। रेत के ढेर बनाकर खुश होने वाले अब अपने काम से वो संतुष्टि कहाँ मिलती है। क्या बदल गया इतने सालों में, कहाँ छिप गया बचपन बहानों में। जिंदगी के झूले पे फिसल रहे हैं आज भी, पर हाथ छोड़ने से अब डर क्यों नहीं लगता है।
Thank you, Ariba. That was a very nostalgic poem. Next up, we have another recitation on Banful, an original composition by Shweta Mishra from first year.
बनफूल, जानती हूँ आप करते हैं हमारी परवाह, दिन रात मांगते हैं हमारे लिए दुआ, करते हैं आप हमसे इतना प्यार, तो आखिर क्यों नहीं कर पाते बस थोड़ा सा एतबार। कहते हैं जिम्मेदार बनो, पर कोई जिम्मेदारी नहीं देते, कहते हैं समझदार बनो, पर समझदारी दिखाने का मौका देते हैं क्या। कहते हैं हर काम में भाग लो, पर हमें हमारे फैसलों में भी भागीदारी नहीं देते। कहते हैं मुसीबतों का सामना करो, पर कोई मुसीबत हम तक आने ही नहीं देते। अगर आप बिना बोले सब समझ लेते हो, तो आखिर क्यों फिर हमें बिना गलती की सजा देते हो। हमें नहीं देते हमारे फैसले करने का अधिकार, और फिर आप कहते हो कि हम ही हैं बेकार। भले ही हमारे रास्ते अलग हो, हमारी मंजिलें अलग हो, हमारे तरीके भी अलग हों, पर हम में भी है वही संस्कार जो गलत करने से पहले रोकेंगी हमें बार बार। सीखने दो हमें, गलतियां करने दो, गिरने दो हमें, गिर के संभलने दो, उड़ने दो हमें होकर बेपरवाह, चुनने दो हमें हमारी राह। बस एक बार विश्वास करके तो देखो, एक मौका बस देख के तो देखो। नदियों का मुख मोड़ के दिखलाएंगे, आसमां को भी जमीन से मिलाएंगे। हम तो वो बनफूल हैं जो पत्थरों के बीच भी खिल जाएंगे। हाँ, हम तो वो बनफूल हैं जो पत्थरों के बीच भी खिल जाएंगे। Written by Shweta Mishra. Thank you.
Well, that was a beautiful poem. So finally, we are at the very last performance of AOTT 2021. So without much grieving, let's get into it. Presenting Atrey Majumdar from first year, who is going to perform Mary Horwitz, Spider and the Fly.
The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howarth.
Will you walk into my parlor?
Said the spider to the fly.
It's the prettiest little parlor you ever did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stairs, and I have many curious things to show you when you're there.
Oh, no, said the little fly. To ask me isn't vain, for who goes up your winding stairs can never come down again.
I'm sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Will you rest upon my little bed?
Said the spider to the fly.
There are pretty curtains drawn around the sheets of fine and thin, and if you like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in.
Oh, no,
Said the little fly.
for I have often heard it said, the never wake again who sleep upon your bed.
Said the cunning spider to the fly. Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice, and I'm sure you are very welcome. Will you please to take a slice?
Oh, no,
Said the little fly.
kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see.
Sweet creature, said the spider. You are witty, you are wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. I have a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. If you step in a moment, dear, you shall behold yourself.
I thank you, gentle sir, she said, for what you are pleased to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day.
The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly will soon come back again. So he wove a supple wave into the corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came to his door again, and merrily did sing. Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like a diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead. Alas, alas, how very soon this silly little fly, hearing his really flattering words, came slowly fleeting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, and nearer drew, thinking of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue, thinking of her crested head. Poor foolish thing, at last up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her up his winding stairs into his dismal den within his little parlor, but she never came out again. And now, dear little children, who may the story read, to idle, silly, flattering words I pray you never give heed. Unto an evil counselor, close hurt, ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. Thank you.
So we are officially at the end of the Architect of the Times 2021. Thank you very much for bearing with us till the end. We will be back again next year and hopefully not on this online platform. Till then, goodbye and take care.